Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this General Purpose and Administration Committee meeting on Monday, June the 17th. And I will call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you, and I will call on our clerk to talk about the processes for today's meeting. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, for your information, I will be recording the minutes in eScribe this afternoon and conducting the votes. Should we have any technical issues during the meeting, please be patient as we try to resolve them. If we are unable to, then we will carry on with the meeting provided that the live stream is still operating and all members of council, staff, and the public are still able to fully participate. I will now conduct a roll call to ascertain which members of council are present. Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall, are you present?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Guido, are you present?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross, are you present?
Present, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Kiesenbrink has sent in her regrets, so she is absent from today's meeting. Councillor Brown, are you present?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I can confirm that we have quorum for this meeting. I will now list the staff who are present in alphabetical order. Adam DeBecke, Carol Coleman, Christy Harrison, our CAO Ken Nix, Kevin Heritage, Laura Barta, Laura Garnasio, Lori Bowers, our Fire Chief Mark Burney, Megan Michelle. Is there any member of staff present whom I did not mention? Also in attendance this afternoon are a number of delegates who will be introduced shortly. As in previous electronic meetings, I will now review the rules for the meeting. Please mute your microphone while not talking. This will avoid any background noise that may occur where you are and will avoid any echo of the audio. Also, please ensure you are in a quiet place to limit background noise when you speak. Please use headphones as this will also help improve the audio quality. If you would like to speak, please use the hand raise function in the meeting. The mayor will then call upon you when it is your turn. For members of council, if you leave your computer, please let the mayor know so that quorum can continue to be met. When moving or seconding a motion, please use the hand raise function in the meeting and the mayor will announce who the mover and seconder are. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. We will be using electronic voting process during tonight's meeting. At the appropriate times, I will announce that the voting is open and council members will be asked to make a selection. Once everyone has voted, I will announce that the vote is closed. If for any reason a council member is unable to vote, please announce your vote verbally and say in favor or against. If the electronic voting system stops working for any reason, we will revert back to a verbal vote whereby the mayor will ask if there is any member of council opposed to the motion. If you are opposed, please state your name and that you are opposed. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I'll call for any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the nature thereof. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move now to announcements from council and staff. I have Councillor Watton. Councillor Watton, please give us your announcements.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a reminder that Port Perry will turn 150 on this Wednesday, and we have a small ceremony planned at Palmer Park, which is being pre-recorded and will be available on Rogers TV and YouTube and various other medias as of June 15th. Anyone who may be in attendance will be asked to maintain social distancing, wear a mask, and observe all COVID protocols. And we're really looking forward to it. And I can honestly say I'm glad that that day has finally arrived. I'd also like to announce that the banners have been placed on the lampposts in the downtown core and various other places. And I thank you to township staff for doing that in such a timely fashion. I think they look fantastic. There may be sightings of some flags as well. If anyone interested in any swag, t-shirts, hats, mugs, etc., we will be having a booth this summer at the farmers market, and we hope that people will come and visit us there and take advantage or purchase some of the items. The lapel pins that are specially created by Dana will be available for pre-order, and just check our Port Perry 150 Facebook page or the township website for directions on how to go about that. And there are many events and things happening. There will be an ad going out showing all the happenings for June, and we encourage everyone to participate. And I must say that as things start to roll, there is more enthusiasm and people are asking to participate or how they can participate. At this point, it's still all through a COVID lens. Perhaps between Christmas and New Year's, there will be a big bash to be a grand finale. But at this point, all through COVID lens, keeping safety protocols in place. And please support local, shop local, help our businesses and our retailers and everyone get through the last final stage of this. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That's my announcement.
Thank you, Councillor Watton. I noticed the banners on the lampposts on downtown, and they look great. And the flowers are going up today too.
Is now joining.
Also, the booklets have been in the mail this past week, and they're excellent. And it's got the 150 things to do in Port Perry, and that's including a whole bunch of events that are happening. So that's a great little booklet. And finally, thank you, Councillor Watton. I know that you have a busy June personally, and I really want to thank you and your committee for heading this up. You've done an excellent job so far, and we are so very appreciative of all your efforts. So thank you. Are there any other announcements from council? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll go to staff and I'll call on Chief Burney.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. I have a few short announcements. Excuse me. First, I'd like to share with all of you, there are no active COVID-19 cases in the township of Scugog. And with that, I'd like to say well done to the residents of Scugog. It's been a long time since we've seen these types of numbers that actually have gone for over a week and a half. So again, well done, Scugog. Today, the province announced we will be moving to step one of the reopening plan effective at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, June 11th. Staff will review and apply these changes to the Scugog services, and we will communicate these changes as soon as possible. Beginning today, June 7th, the province accelerated the second dose program, and I encourage our residents to go to derm.ca, then select the COVID-19 vaccine tab for more information on obtaining either your first dose or the second dose. And then finally, Mayor Drew, warm temperatures combined with the lack of measurable rain has moved Scugog's fire danger rating to a high level. A burn ban is looming, and I'm asking our residents to use extreme caution when exercising their open air permit and pray for some rain. And with that, Mayor Drew, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to give you a few announcements.
Thank you. And it looks so it's supposed to be some rain this afternoon, so hopefully that will help things, including our gardens. Chief, I know that they made that announcement this morning about opening up to stage one on Friday, but as in the past, sometimes the municipalities don't get the specifics on that. Have we got them yet? And do you know when we're expecting them? Because we may have to turn things around on a dime like we did a few weeks ago. So do you have any, we have those specifics yet?
We are working on them right now and applying them to our current measures that are affecting our services and programs.
Okay, but we haven't heard any more specifics from the province, and are we waiting for any more, or?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything more specific other than the provincial announcement that went out generically across the province today.
Okay, so I will ask for patience from our residents and visitors. If we don't have everything in place by 12:01 Friday morning, it just means that we haven't had enough lead time. So thank you very much, Chief. And Director Heritage?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to remind everyone that the township will be holding a virtual public open house on June 16th at 6:30 p.m. for residents to learn more about the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments as initiated by staff to identify where cannabis production facilities should be permitted and what land use planning policies and criteria should be applied in evaluating applications. Now at the open house, a presentation will be provided and residents will be given an opportunity to ask questions and provide comments. Should you wish to participate in the virtual open house, please contact the Manager of Planning, Robin Prentice, at rprentice@scugog.ca by noon on June 16th with your name and email address. This will allow time for staff to provide you with the link to the meeting. A meeting link will then be sent the day before the open house. Should you be unable to access a computer, please contact Robin Prentice for alternative participation options. Now, the cannabis draft amendments are now available for review and comment. A web page has been created regarding cannabis on the My Scugog, our community platform. This project page is intended to engage residents and gather more feedback throughout the process before any decisions are made on these proposed amendments. That concludes my announcement, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Are there any other members of staff that have an announcement? Seeing none, thank you very much. Some good news. And now we come to presentations, and a very special time of year for all of us, especially some of our employees. And it's the Employee Milestone Service Awards. And unfortunately, we're doing it virtually again, and that's unfortunate. But we will do the best we can to honor our employees. And so for 5 years of service, I'd like to announce Chief Burney, Director Bowers, Director Coleman, Brandon Davis, Director Heritage, and Megan Michelle. And for 10 years of service, Kyle Webb. And for 15 years of service, Christy Harrison, Ted Howarth, and Steve Sullivan. I know I speak for all of council and that we really wish we could thank you for your service and shake your hand personally. We want you to know how much we appreciate your dedication, your commitment, and working as a supportive team in Scugog. Thank you so much. And we have your certificates and we will get them to you. And I'd like to call on our CAO, Ken Nix. Ken?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to the staff being recognized, I'd like to echo the Mayor's comments. Before I came to Scugog, I heard about the great staff at the township, and it's obvious from the number of staff being recognized for these milestones that we have a committed and dedicated staff in Scugog. This is important because regardless if you are on the front line or a department head, every one of you plays a role in ensuring we deliver quality services to the residents of Scugog Township. And I would like to pass on my personal thanks for your effort and for the service at the township. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. We will now move on to Ms. Carrie Nicholson, Artistic Director and General Manager for Theatre on the Ridge. And Carrie is going to talk to us about the summer season taking place in downtown Port Perry and hopefully the use of the municipal parking lot number 5 for one production. Ms. Nicholson, welcome. Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of council, township staff, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and to present our request to have the rental fees for municipal parking lot number 5 the Water Street lot, waived for our performances in July. The details and rationales for our request are documented in the proposal, which you already have before you. And before I take questions, I would like to share a short video, which is of an excerpt of our recently launched marketing documentary of our 2020 season, which was our first year impacted by COVID. The full video was made possible with the support of Central Counties Tourism and their Tourism Partnership Program. The excerpt you are seeing today highlights our role and contribution to Scugog's cultural, tourism, and economic sectors. I'm going to watch it at home on my screen. I'm going to trust that you'll just let me know when you guys have finished seeing it, because I've called in today due to my teams needing to be updated. So if we could have the video, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whether our residents or our visitors are attending a performance by Theatre on the Ridge, or they're sitting and enjoying a show in our very own Town Hall Theatre, we really do have something here for everyone.
Economic surveys show that visitors spend time and dollars in the shops, in restaurants, in overnight stays. In my opinion, the arts is a huge driver for Scugog tourism, and thereby a huge economic driver.
Theatre on the Ridge in our community has been one of our greatest supporters. They are extremely involved in ensuring that our tourism continues to thrive. They are members of our local arts organizations and our municipal tourism committees, and they are consistently involved in events that are taking place throughout the community.
The quality of the productions here at Theatre on the Ridge are very professional. There are some plays that I have seen here where I would put them on the stages of some of the theatres in Toronto.
Well, Theatre on the Ridge is a really great and important addition to our community. It's very high quality professional theatre.
Theatre on the Ridge is the only professional theatre company in Durham Region that's a nonprofit as well. And they hire and pay their actors, commission work about this community. They want to share what the community has as its history. So they cover quite a wide range of work.
While many live theaters saw their summer seasons being impacted by COVID-19, Theatre on the Ridge decided to face the challenges head on rather than allow the pandemic to halt production completely.
We called it the something from nothing season, and we had no idea what we were going to be able to do.
I'm a theatre goer, and I was missing my Stratford and my jaw, and it was just so lovely to get out and get to a live performance. We stopped in at one of the patios and had drinks after the show. That was just so delightful because it was socially distanced and just very nice.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to applaud the Theatre on the Ridge for continuing to stay strong during all of this. We are very fortunate to have them as part of our community.
I truly don't know how they did it, but it's awesome, and I'm very proud of them.
They will find a way to make sure you're safe and that you'll get to enjoy live performance.
We did it, and now we're taking stock, and we're going to do it again next year.
Thank you, whoever did that.
Yeah, yes, that was excellent. Yeah. Did you have anything else that you wanted to highlight before we go to questions?
I don't think so. I thought, since given the time constraints, I would just, I hope that I was pretty comprehensive in the proposal, so I'm happy just to take questions at this time.
Are there any questions for Ms. Nicholson? Madam Clerk, do you see any questions up here? I'm not. Oh, Councillor Rotten. There we are.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't really have any questions for Carrie. I just wanted to say kudos, a job well done, and when the time is appropriate, I will make a motion to the Theatre on the Ridge request.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, yes, kudos to you and your organization, Carrie. It was amazing what you managed to do. Very creative. It was, yeah, very creative, so to speak. But kudos to you, and that was a very successful season that you had last year, and that's always good news. So yes, we are welcoming a motion to receive, and if there is a wish to approve the use of the parking lot without the fees, that would be welcome. And I think we need a 2/3 majority because there is this is not on the agenda as an item. So Councillor Watton, did you wish to make that motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just looking for the exact wording for it. I don't know if the clerk can put it up. But I guess we need to ask first if everybody's in favor of it for 2/3, right? Or do we just need 2/3 to approve the motion?
Ms. Jameson?
So we just need, through you, Madam Mayor, we just need 2/3 to approve the motion.
Yeah.
Once it's on the floor.
It is on the agenda, but it's not on the agenda as a motion. So yes, okay, thank you. Have you got the wording? There we are.
I do, thank you. It's on the screen, but I'll read it for the record. Just that whereas all businesses have been severely affected by the restrictions of operations during the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas theaters were faced with mandatory closure and are now permitted to operate only at 20% capacity. Now therefore be it resolved that the delegation from Theatre on the Ridge be received and that the rental fees for the use of the municipal parking lot number 5 between July 10 and July 24th, 2021 by Theatre on the Ridge be waived, provided that all provincial regulations are followed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? I'm not getting everybody's name up here on.
Councillor McDougall has raised his hand, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, some of my screen is frozen. So, okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments? Ms. Jameson, you'll have to let me know if somebody puts up their hand, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like Councillor Guido has her hand up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to staff, is there any way for us to understand the total value of the fees that we'd be waiving?
Who can answer that?
Madam Mayor, Carrie, I was given a quote of $1,950.
Thank you. Director Barta, where would that money come from?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, we would take that from the COVID money that the province has provided for the Safe Restart.
Thank you. Same as the patio permit fees and so on and so forth. Okay, thank you. Further, Councillor Guido?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other questions?
Councillor Brown has his hand up, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I approve of this, so that's not an issue. I just want to get it out there. It's a related note that I've talked to the people in lawn bowling here in town, and they're undergoing what they consider to be a tremendous financial hardship at this particular juncture of time, due to many of the same reasons that we all are regarding COVID. So I just, while I'm happy to endorse this and agree to go forward with it, I just want to sort of plant the seed, if I may, a lawn bowling seed, that there will be other requests similar to this in a different form, but similar in a way. It's just a comment.
Thank you. No other questions? Can we call the vote, please?
Yes, voting is opened, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that is carried unanimously by those who are here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Nicholson, for your presentation today, and break a leg with your production this summer.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you all for your support. I will make sure you all know exactly when to show up to see the show. Thank you again.
Thank you. Moving on to reports, I have 10.1.1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Carrie
7,
Nicholson
8, 9.
Is now exiting.
And 10.2.1, all pulled. So could I have a motion, please, to approve the recommendations on 10.1.6?
Councillor McDougall, I'll move.
Councillor McDougall moves it, seconded by?
Councillor Watton?
Thank you. All those in favor, please call the question, Madam Clerk.
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Move now to 10.1.1. Councillor McDougall, you've pulled that? Would you care to
Yes, I
make
did.
the motion?
Yes, I will, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just pulling the questions up. Firstly, on 10.1.1 is item 2.2 in the report with regards to delegations being able to appear after the agenda has been announced. My question to staff is when will this bylaw change take place? I think this is a great idea. I want to start with.
May I ask our clerk, please, to answer that?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Should council approve the recommendations contained within the report, the bylaw will come forward to the June 28th council meeting. And following that meeting, once the bylaw amendment has been approved, then the new procedure for delegations will take place.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you. Just in inquiry to the development of this, have we had many situations where we've had a request for delegations where the agenda has already been produced? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Well, I think I can answer that in one particular instance, the one that we had last week with Mr. Corrigan and Mr. McPherson. I'm not sure if I had that name right. Because they were speaking on the long-term care home, and they were not aware of it before that. So, and Ms. Jameson, maybe you could answer if there are any others that you're aware of, or have there been?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. In my short time here, there's been 1 or 2 instances where the agenda's gone out and someone's inquired about speaking. So this will just allow in those instances for people the opportunity to register as a delegation if it is on a matter that is on the agenda following the agenda publishing date. So not many instances, but a few.
And further through, Madam Mayor, and there will no longer be a requirement for a 2/3 vote to allow that delegation to appear. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. As long as they have reached out to the clerk's department before noon on Friday and the item is on the agenda, they will then be published as an addendum to the agenda. So no 2/3 requirement would be needed.
Thank you. Further?
Yes, very good. Thank you. I do have a follow-up question just with regards to Council Information Index. It talks to the amount of electronic email in 2.1 and similar correspondence that we might get. I'm just inquiring, is there any sort of guideline in terms of, how and when staff or council might reply to everybody in terms of emails? Like, should we, will there be a guidance in terms of that? And just in terms of just general email etiquette, will there be anything in this Council Information Index? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. No, there will not be anything specific in regards to email etiquette. However, staff can definitely take that back and develop some, guiding guidelines that could assist members of council and staff with that. With the Council Information Index, it'll be every Friday one document with all the different correspondence going out for council's information. And at that time, council can pull an item if they wish for a future agenda. So it will help reduce the number of emails that are going back and forth between staff and council in regards to general correspondence.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So just, there will be something though that you would be able to kind of just a template or something, just so we know in terms of, who we should reply to, if it should be a group reply or an individual reply, that sort of thing going forward. Is that fair to say? To you, Madam Mayor?
I'm thinking, Councillor McDougall, these pieces of correspondence are more, we get a lot, as you know, from other municipal councils looking for support for a resolution. Individual inquiries to councils or council and staff will be, that I think would be different, and I'll ask our clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, you are correct. But yes, to Councillor McDougall's question, staff can certainly assist in putting some guidelines together with respect to who responses and more formal guidelines with respect to the CII and email etiquette and things like that this summer that we can share with council for their information.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nothing further?
No, nothing more further, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? Madam Clerk, did you have your microphone is on? Did you wish to speak to something?
Oh,
No?
I apologize. I was getting ahead of myself there. I apologize, Madam Mayor.
That's okay. Do I have a seconder?
You do not.
Okay, do I have a seconder, please, for that motion?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. The motion is up there. Would you call the vote, please, Madam Clerk?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move to 10.1.2, Animal Services and Property Standards Committee Terms of Reference. Councillor Brown has pulled that. Do you wish to make the motion, Councillor Brown?
Yes, I will make the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor McDougall. Please go ahead, Councillor Brown.
Just a real quick point of order question. Page 2 of 9, I guess this is for Ms. Javison. Page 2 of 9 of the attachment shall hear evidence presented by witnesses, the township municipal law officers and dog owners. I just want to know if the township municipal law officers, does that mean bylaw?
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. It could mean the bylaw officer or the animal control officer. If it is an animal control matter, then it would be the animal services officer from Uxbridge in most instances. If it's a property standards matter, it would be one of our bylaw enforcement officers.
Okay, great. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you call the question, please, Madam Clerk? Or any other questions? Of course, I don't see any, so. Okay.
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 10.1.3, 2020 Building Permit Activity Review. And Councillor Ross, you've pulled that. Do you care to make the motion, please?
Yes, I'll make the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder?
Councillor Brown will second it.
And your question, Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, question for Director Heritage. The report from Lindsay here is very in depth with the amount of money that we've made and the percentage of increase from 2020. My question is for future reports coming forward in regards to building permit activity. Is it possible to see the time frame that is involved with providing these permits to people? I know in other committees, other councils, there are certain guidelines that are set from a township point of view, as well as from a building code point of view, and that there's a certain amount of time for permits to be issued. Is this a metric that we capture? How long it takes from the time the permit's been put in until it's been issued?
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, thanks for the question. The I guess, the third paragraph on page 3 of 6 in the report that I prepared dealing with the permanent full-time development service associate and the contract building inspector addresses that issue. As outlined in that report, it says in most cases, applications that are submitted to the township are incomplete since they're missing required information or did not include sufficient fees. And then once complete, the time taken to enter applications into the system and undertake a zoning review and a grading review if necessary can take up to 2 weeks, even before applications are reviewed by the building section. And then once applications are received by building, it could take up to another 2 to 3 weeks to review and issue a permit, depending on the complexity of the application and the number of permits in the queue. So for a typical residential permit under the code, we're required to issue a permit within 10 business days. So based on this explanation in the report, we are exceeding that.
Okay, thank you. That's in regards to the 10 business days, but are there other guidelines or depending on which permit is being issued?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, that's correct. It depends on the nature of the permit, whether it's a commercial or industrial permit. Under the code, municipalities have a longer time period in order to process those applications. But as you know, the majority of our applications that we're dealing with in the Township of Scugog are for residential development. So typically, we're required to have those permits issued within the 10-day period.
Okay, perfect. Is it possible to see in future reports an idea of what our average is? You know, if we're meeting the 10 days, how much we're meeting it by? You know, is it being right on the 10-day mark, or do we have room to maneuver? And also, what percentage are going over that? Just so that it's easy to identify the positives as well as perhaps the spots that we could do some improvement with. Is that something possible we could see in future reports in regards to building permits?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, we can certainly give you a high-level indication on where we're standing in future reports that come forward to council.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a mover and a seconder. And would you call the question, please, Madam Clerk?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move to 10.1.4. Permanent Full-Time Development Services Associate, Contract Senior Building Inspector, Plans Examiner. And I will call on Kevin, please, to give us a little bit of background. And I would ask when we get to questions, this is one of those items that it's a bit on the edge of whether it should be in camera or not. Staff has chosen to put this in the public agenda, so I please ask you not to refer to any names. Director Heritage, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll first start off with the staff recommendation for a senior building official. As you know, we are competing with other municipalities that are dealing with a similar increased growth rate. And it's going to be difficult to attract a building permit inspector. That's why we're recommending a senior building official. And another reason we're doing that is because of the imminent opening of King's Landing. It's a multiple residential type development where building officials have to have special credentials in order to provide those building inspections. That will be commencing shortly, and we have learned that their sales pavilion will be opening this coming weekend. So it has been cleared for occupancy, so we should be seeing some activity there very shortly. We're also looking for a building official that has greater experience and less likely to need training. We need somebody that hits the ground running here because, as you have seen in our I guess in the previous report, the building permit activity review, both in 20 and the forecast for 2021. We are exceptionally busy and we are hitting record levels of development activity. And as council has seen through recent planning applications, one of the largest ones that we've dealt with in terms of Del Park, that's over 300 units that we're going to be dealing with over the next several years. In addition to several other development applications. So we're going to be extremely busy over the next few years. And in terms of the other recommendation on the Development Services Associate, moving that position from a part-time to a full-time, currently that position is fully entrenched in building. The majority of the time is being spent in entering applications into the system, dealing with inquiries and emails, phone inquiries and emails, and some of the time, or a little amount of the time, is being spent with by law enforcement in dealing with the processing of tickets. So we foresee that position being able to do more in terms of providing some services to planning. There are no services, administrative services being provided to planning at this point in time. So staff is recommending that that position be changed from a part-time position to a full-time position. So it's 24 hours a week to 35 hours a week. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that does not have, none of these recommendations have any effect on this year's budget.
No, they don't.
Correct? Right. And the senior building inspector and plans examiner is a contract position to kind of see us through over the hump, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have a mover. Not sure if we have a seconder. Do we, Madam Clerk?
We actually don't have a mover yet either, Madam Mayor.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's
yes.
okay.
Okay. Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Watton.
Councillor McDougall.
Councillor McDougall seconding. Questions? Let me see. Councillor Brown, you pulled it, and so did Councillor Watton. So, Councillor Brown, please go ahead.
Well, I'll, through you, Madam Mayor, I'll let Councillor Watton go ahead because the amazing Director Heritage answered all of my questions in that very thorough comment that he made about 30 to 50 seconds ago. Yeah, so go ahead,
all
Norma.
27 questions,
all 27. Daryl Sittler, 27.
Thank you. Councillor Watton, please go ahead.
Thank you, and I'll withdraw my 44.
Thank you. Oh, you did a good job, Director Heritage. Councillor Ross, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two questions for the Director. You mentioned at the beginning of your introduction there that the Development Services Associate was the position to be chosen over it sounds like a more senior position. The reason for that, my understanding, is budget-based. Is that correct?
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. I'm not sure what your question is. They're two separate positions. One's a senior building inspector, plans examiner. That's one position. And the other position is the Development of Services Associate, moving from a part-time to a full-time situation.
No, absolutely. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. It's not in the report. It was just in your introduction. I thought there was a mention that the Development Services Associate, although it's being moved from a part-time to a full-time position, was perhaps, my understanding was it wasn't the first choice. There would have been a position that was more senior to that. That's not correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, perfect. Well, that crosses that question off. The second question is, you mentioned that there's no effect on this year's budget. What is the effect on the budget going forward?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The senior building official plans examiner position is a 2-year contract. I don't foresee any impacts on the budget at all. That position will be paid from the building reserve. And we anticipate that, as I indicated in my introduction, that this level of growth will continue for some time. And it was verified in the development charges background study that was done in the building permit or building background study that was prepared by Hemson. And they also indicated that over the next 5 years, we're going to be seeing an extensive amount of development. In terms of the development services associate and bumping that up from part-time to full-time, currently the majority of that compensation comes from the building permit reserve fund. And as things change over time, if that position can take up more work in bylaw enforcement and planning, perhaps the budget could shift a little bit. But for the foreseeable future, it's going to be coming out of building permit reserve as well. So there'll be no impact on the budget.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Heritage, for the report. I understand, I think, from the previous report that the anticipated building permit revenue in 2020 was $300,000. Is that correct?
Director?
For you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, that is correct. The actual permit revenue was $300,000 in 2019. And in 2020, it's more than doubled.
And it appears that in the first 5 months of 2021 we're 525,000, so probably about projected at 600,000 for 6 months, or 1.2 million for 2021 would be where we're on track for. Is that about right?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, we're exceeding $600,000 right now.
Wow. Sorry, didn't mean to say that out loud. That would explain why the building department would be overwhelmed if that's the amount of activity we're seeing. So I'm pleased to see this report come forward. The question I have is it is anticipated that, given the developments that we have on hand, that for the next foreseeable future few years we will have this type of permit activity. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, that's correct.
And this contract position should help to alleviate during that period, because I don't know with our sewage treatment plant if that sort of growth will continue. Is that fair to say? And given a contract position, we can, or council can, reevaluate at that point in time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, that's correct as well, yes.
Okay, very good. Oh, one further question. Did I understand that the development services position would also be funded from the building permit fees?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, yes, the majority of that position would be funded through the building permit reserve.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with the addition of these people, it probably will make those averages look a little bit better that Councillor Ross was asking about. Would that be correct, Director Heritage?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that would be correct.
Then that would be great. No further questions on no, I don't see any further questions. I have my list up now. It's working, so I can see your hands up. Madam Clerk, will you call the question, please?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we move to 10.1.5, reserve and reserve funds, and 2020 closing and 2021 opening. And Ms. Barta, or Director Barta, do you have anything you'd like to say about this? Otherwise, I have Councillor Watton has pulled this. Director Barta, did you want to say anything about this report? Or just answer questions?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Yes, through you, I do have just a couple quick comments before we begin discussion. I'd first like to say that reserves and reserve funds are a strategic management tool, which helps to provide for emergencies, allow for savings to assist with major projects, and also to promote financial stability within the township. It helps keeps tax rates somewhat stable when you can have money set aside for specific projects to kind of level that off. And this report, I think, shows that we are doing a very good job in trying to build up those reserves so that we can take advantage of what's out there to be done. Based on some review I've done of other municipalities, unfortunately, looking at 2009, the Township of Scugog has the lowest level of reserve funds in the region of Durham.
Ouch.
So, yeah, we have a lot to do, and this is our way to start, and I think this council has done a lot towards putting money aside to start looking at dealing with these things. And what I'm recommending in this report just adds to that. And actually the creation of an additional reserve fund that is kind of geared towards looking at stabilizing our winter control is also recommended in this. And that's not to say that, 1 year it's not going to be worse than another. It's just that it will provide a little bit of flexibility so our budgets can be stable and can pull money out of that reserve for a bad year, put it in a good year. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to respond.
Thank you, Director. And I guess later in our agenda, we have an item that is an emergency where we will be drawing from our reserves, something that we certainly weren't expecting. Our pier at the bottom of Queen Street needed much more than the general maintenance this year. It's in a dangerous position. We've had to close it, and we will have to use reserves for that. That is something that's not budgeted, and we weren't expecting it. Would that be fair to say that's a good reason why we have reserves, Director?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would totally agree that that is an excellent reason to have a reserve.
Thank you very much. Councillor Watton, you had a question? And do you wish to make the motion?
I'll make the motion, Madam Mayor, and Director Barta spoke to most of my questions, but I just wondered if Director Barta or someone could give me an idea of how many in the last 3 years, if we have been over, say, or under budget for our road winter clearance, just to help me understand, I understand the concept. I just wondered if we are constantly over or constantly under, or if it's a fine balance.
Director Barta, can you answer that question?
I was just, through you, Madam Mayor, going to suggest that maybe someone else might be in a better position who's been here longer and can actually track that. Otherwise, I can get back to council.
Director Coleman has her hand up. I think that's because she can answer the question. Director Coleman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Giroux. This past winter was a fairly mild winter with respect to winter events. So we were a bit under budget for winter maintenance this year. The previous winter, we had many, many events, and we were significantly over our budget that year. And I don't remember exactly what happened 3 years ago, but that's what happened the last 2 years.
Yeah, I remember a number of years ago, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, where it seemed to be snowing every day or every other day. It wasn't always a lot, but enough that the plows had to come out, and we were significantly over budget that year. Okay, I have, does that answer your question, Councillor Watton?
Well, I was just going to say further, would the overage have, or would the mild winter have balanced with the colder or the more incidents winter? Would it have balanced, like in the world of the reserves? Or would we still have been over for the previous winter? I just thinking ahead for the next budget, that's all.
Okay, Director Coleman?
Thank you, Mayor Drew. Through you to the councillor, I looked at when our what was the report we brought forward earlier this year, the modernization of public works. It did recommend this reserve as well, and I looked at to see if there would be cost savings in our budget of maybe perhaps this is about an average what we're budgeting for, but we actually budget for a good winter. So most winters, we probably spend more than this amount right now than what we budget.
Okay, that's fine. I'm more curious than anything. Thank you very much, Director Coleman.
Thank you. Did I get a seconder for this? And I know I have another couple of speakers just asking.
You did not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so can I get a seconder before we move on? I have our CAO wants to speak as well. Have a seconder, please.
Councillor Ross will second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ross. Let me see. Mr. CAO, you had something you wanted to say. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's actually, I'll touch a bit on the winter control, but it's more reserves as a whole I would like to talk about. The winter control, it does smooth things out. So it allows you to budget based on an average winter, and if things get, are continually getting worse, you'll have an incremental increase in your budget rather than a dramatic increase in any one year, because the reserve can help cushion the extreme experiences. So it is in place in many municipalities in terms of helping to stabilize the weather type events. So it does help. What it really does is add a degree of certainty, because if you have a bad winter and you don't have one of these reserves, you either have to pull from another reserve, or you have to cut back on some of the services that you were planning to provide and spend on other needed activities for primarily roads and roads maintenance. So it really does help. And when you talk about reserves and reserve funds, it really is one of the key tools for looking at both how you deal with impacts today as well as planning for the future. A lot of people think having too much money in the bank account is a bad thing. And quite frankly, if it doesn't have a purpose, I get it. However, if it does have a purpose, it is part of a strategic and fiscally responsible plan that helps us move towards the future. A lot of our reserves and reserve funds, there's very little flexibility. And you heard me mention this at budget time. There is very little flexibility. We have, we're lucky this year. We had some unexpected funding from the province regarding COVID. But without that, we would have been dealing with a different picture going into the 2022 budget. It is not, we have a small contingency piece. That small contingency is needed to do the ups and downs. The vast majority of the rest of the reserves are committed for specific purposes in order to help us move forward on addressing our capital programs. And that's an important part, because it's our saving plan in some format to be able to help us deliver on some of the capital programs we need to, and balance that with borrowing rather than getting to a point where we have no choice but to borrow for everything. So I do appreciate what this council has been starting to do in terms of looking forward, and I think it's an important thing to continue doing, because we do have purpose-built reserves. They're not just sitting there without a reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. CAO and Ms. Sparta, for bringing this forward. I do have a question, and Mr. CAO answered some of that. When we look at the balances and we see an uncommitted balance for $14 million in 2020, and it says uncommitted, does that mean it's actually uncommitted, or are most of those reserves actually committed to something or another?
Director? Or Mr. CAO, who are you asking, Councillor McDougall?
I think it might be best to ask Mr. CAO.
The majority of those funds, although they say they're not committed, Basically, committed means it's already applied to a project that's in process. So it's basically this year's projects and last year's projects. The majority, the rest of the balance, is assigned and earmarked for capital projects within the capital budget as you move forward. It's not $14 million sitting without a purpose. It is part of how we are delivering that capital program. So if you look at the 5-year capital program, it's more of a commitment related to those future projects, but we call committed as things that are on projects that we've already started or been approved in this year's budget.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. That does actually answer a fair bit of my questions in terms of the commitments. I was thinking originally that it was $14 million sitting without a purpose and that perhaps it could be used towards roads or building maintenance that we talk about a lot. I do have a question with regards to when I look at 2019 to 2020, I see a significant growth in the amount of reserves. I'm assuming that it's related to some of the development that we've seen take place in the last 16, 18 months over in Port Perry area. Is there any other reasons for that reserve? I'm certainly, there's many people who during the current pandemic would like to see some growth like that in their own account. So I'm just curious as to how and why Scugog would see that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I guess, first of all, there's a lot in the development charges because of the growth. And I would suggest that the policy that council adopted for the reserve fund policy would have a lot to do with how we are growing our reserves to fund future needs. And I'll ask Director Barta or Mr. CAO to answer your question more fully.
If I may.
Yes, please.
Madam Mayor, through you. A good part of the growth in these reserves does have a direct relation to the growth within the municipality. Both the development charge reserve fund and the parkland reserve fund are directly impacted by the development and the growth. So, that alone for this year was $2.5 million of the increase. And that would not have been budgeted to be spent because we have to accumulate the funds. When we have them, then we can spend them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they have to be spent because they are restricted reserves. They can only be used for what was planned within the development charges study or what's permitted within the parkland. I can't think of what it's called, but there are restrictions as to what we can use that for. So a lot of the growth is coming there. Some of it is contributions that were made from last year's surplus, which wasn't as large as this year's surplus, but we did still contribute into specific reserve funds. And unfortunately, our interest earning is not nearly what it should be because of the impact that COVID's had, but there is a bit of a contribution from that as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CAO, did you want to add anything?
No, I think Ms. Barta answered it well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor McDougall?
No, that's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay,
thank you. The motion is up there. Can you call the question, please, Madam Clerk?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. We will now move to 10.1.7. And actually, I called that. Let me see. Could I have a mover, please, for that? The only okay, Councillor Brown, Councillor Watton, thank you. And what was my question? Let me see. I asked you beforehand, Director Barta, and I was looking at 2.5, which is on page 7 of 9 of the report. And I think there's a lot of questions out there in the public about the COVID funds. And we've certainly seen something tonight or this afternoon where we have earmarked some of those funds for the theater. And certainly we have in the past also donated or had the funds that fund the patio fees and so on and so forth. But I think that there is some confusion out there in the public about how much we've received and where it's going. Is it, I don't want anybody to think that we are pocketing it or squirreling it away, as has been said. So I wonder if you could just give us a little bit of an update and just dwell on that whole thing a little bit more. That's the additional, that's 2.5. Director Barta?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. In total, we are to receive 1.18 million from the province to help with the safe restart. We received the 528,900 in 2020 in a couple installments, and as I've indicated in the chart on page 4 of 9 of the report, that money was helped us to not have too much of a deficit, totally related to the changes that we had to make in order to keep things running during the COVID emergency. In 2021, we have received the first payment in January of 224,000 to help us with the further issues that the province anticipated at the beginning of the year, and we were then promised an additional 429,360, and we have not got all of that. That has not all been paid as yet, but it will be coming. Unfortunately, what's also coming is a lot of the costs that we are incurring in order to keep operating in an efficient manner, with many people still not in the office. Our services still have to be delivered. We have to make improvements, and some of the things we're looking at are improvements to the security systems within our buildings, so we have touchless entry rather than people having to insert keys and making sure everybody's got keys. We're going to have key fobs for a lot of the buildings, which we haven't in the past. We've got still additional information technology improvements that need to be done. We have one staff member who looks after most of that, and he's not able to keep up because there is just so much with everybody working remotely. Even to run this type of meetings, we need a lot of support. So we're hoping to get additional support in order to do more. We're looking at improvements to our e-commerce on our website to facilitate more streamlined payments, and that's in process now. We're hoping to bring online marriage licenses on board, as well as online applications for burial permits. And these are things that will benefit us going forward because they'll stay on the website even after the COVID emergency is totally done. We've also got work being done to improve the webcasting and the live streaming of the video presentations and closed captioning them, because we need to improve our access to all residents. Council was, Council approved the low-income property owners special tax assistance pilot program for 2021. And that is to help those who are seniors with limited income or people on disabilities. So there's been a portion of our money that we've received set aside to fund that. There's also the waiver of fees, as mentioned previously. Each time fees are waived for different promotional areas that help to encourage and keep Port Perry strong, or keep Scugog strong, and encourage people to come out. These are costs that we would have incurred as revenue, so that is coming out of the COVID funding. Many other things that we are looking at, upgrades to software that will improve accessibility. These are all part of what we're doing with the funding. And on top of that, we have the ongoing concern that things are not back to normal yet. Our facilities are not operational. So we are going to have lost revenue for the first half of the year. And we don't know yet what's going to happen in the latter part of the year. So we could still have issues with programs not running at full capacity, with people not being able to come back for some of these programs. So we have to keep that in mind as well and make sure that we can continue to provide the services to the best of our ability with what we have. And that's kind of where we're going COVID-wise.
Thank you very much. And Mr. CAO, did you want to add?
Yes, Barta did a great job in explaining why we or how we're using some of the funds. But the one thing that is key for me is looking at 2022. And as Ms. Barta alluded to, we hopefully, knock on wood, will be opening our services, our programs to the public. We will be incurring the full cost of opening those programs without the potential for revenues to offset it. And if we were planning for the 2022 budget without the ability to provide for shortfalls, we would be having a different discussion in 2022 related to required increases than we will be having. For example, if you run an arena, it costs close to $110, or the SCRC. The arenas cost close to $110,000 cost to run each month. If you don't have revenues to offset that, we either have to cut back on services that are required to be delivered, or be able to plug that hole until our participation returns to close to normal levels. Those reserves allow us to do that and plan for a normal year once we get out of it. So the COVID funding is a welcome, unexpected amount that we received from the provincial government, and we will definitely put it to use.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. I hope that makes all of the listeners feel better that it is indeed going to COVID-related issues. I am pleased to hear the fulsome report from both of you. Councillor Watton, did you have a question?
No, I see that item 3 in the recommendations has been changed. I was only going to comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, what is the change? Just trying to refer to.
When I was looking at it, it showed zeros for the amount.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I see that it's been corrected to match. Yeah.
Thank you. I thought you meant from the report that we got earlier and what's on the screen. So no, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director. Page 6 of 9 in that report regarding burn permits, it says the deposits from a review of expired permits accumulated over time added $100,000 of unbudgeted revenue. Can you explain what that's all about, please?
Can you answer that, Director Barta, or should we go to the Chief?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can actually answer it, and I apologize. I probably should have made those two separate points. The fire burn permits were up significantly over last year, but the second item, which is the 100,000, was to do with the building department, not with fire. They're two separate items that were both increased. As part of the bylaw for the building department, they are required to take deposits for certain services, and if the work is not done, then the township has the right to retain those funds. And what the department did was a review in the prior year, and anything older than, I believe it was 2016, and was still being held, was taken in as revenue because it would not be returned to the property owner, because the township would be basically on the hook to finish the work. And that was, sorry.
No, I beg your pardon. So they would do, through you, Madam Mayor. So they're forfeiting the deposits. That's where this 100,000, the bulk of the 100,000 is coming from? Forfeited deposits? Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. Don't see any further questions. Could you call the question on the motion, please, Madam Clerk?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried. Thank you very much. We'll move to 10.1.8, the traffic bylaw update, Waterbury Crescent and Coleman Crescent. I will call on Councillor Brown, who's pulled this. Do you wish to make the motion, please, Councillor Brown?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Seconder?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I got one. Thank you. Yes, your questions, please, Councillor Brown.
So it's regarding, through you, Madam Mayor, it's regarding all-way stops and a crosswalk at Canterbury at Waterbury Crescent and Country Estates Drive. Overdue, but it's great that it's getting done. The residents will be thrilled. My question is, when is it getting done? That's the first question. And also, as a corollary, when do the speed limit changes take place with signage? Because I know they're interested in that also. So that would be Director Coleman, I believe.
Yep, Director Coleman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. Through you to the councillor. So we need to wait until this bylaw is approved by council on June 28th. And if it's approved at that time, then we will do the service locates and we'll coordinate with our line painting company for the crosswalk markings at that location. So we'll work towards completing the work in August this year. And with respect to changing the speed limit signs in the area, we're changing the speed limits township wide, and it's a major undertaking, so it's going to take some time to do. Right now, we're working with a consultant to determine what the appropriate speed limits are on each road and what the signs requirements are. And then we'll hire a contractor to install the signs. Working towards the end of 2021 to hopefully get everything installed, but it could take a bit longer than that.
Okay, and through you, Madam Mayor. So, but you're going to begin we'll actually be able to see signs being planted, for lack of a better term, in the next couple of months. Would that be reasonable?
I think you can expect to see some of the signs start to go in this fall.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to Director Coleman. I think it was just mentioned that there'd be a consultant hired to identify what the speed limits would be on which roads. Was that not identified in the bylaw that we passed? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The default limits were identified in the bylaw that was passed, but there's some areas that are a little bit less clear. If it's, is it considered a built-up area? Should it be a 40? Should it be a 60? Or would somewhere in between be more appropriate? So yes, for the majority of the roads, there'll be the default levels, but then there'll be some roads that are different that need to be looked at specifically.
Further through you, Madam Mayor. Will there be any form of a report that would come back to council with regards to which areas would not meet the default? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the councillor, any roads that are different than the default would need to be added to the traffic bylaw, so that, yes, that would come to council.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Director Coleman.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't see any further questions. So, Madam Clerk, could you call the vote on the motion that's in front of us?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that is carried. Thank you very much. We'll move now to 10.1.9. Councillor McDougall, do you've pulled it? Do you wish to make the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Brown? Please go ahead, Councillor McDougall.
Yes, my question was with regards to, in the report by QE Engineering, there's a recommendation that recommends in the long run for this pier, as it's rehabbed or rebuilt or whatever happens, there should be pedestrian guards. What does that mean exactly? through to, I believe, Director Coleman.
Director Coleman?
Thank you. Can you indicate where it says that? I'm looking for that reference in the report.
Thank you. It's on page 8 of the QE report. 3/4 of the way down the page, I believe.
Yeah, item number 3.
Yes. Okay, I understand. I believe that would be a railing of some sort to keep pedestrians from accidentally falling off of the pier.
So further through you, Madam Mayor, so we're recommending a railing on a working dock. Is that correct? Through you, Madam Mayor?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can get further clarifications from Q&E Engineering. This is just a very high level recommendation, what they're saying now. What we're recommending going forward is that we would have an environmental assessment undertaken that would look at various options. And then once we pick the best option, we'd be looking at much more detail to the design. So this is very high level at this point.
Councillor, further?
No, that's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very
Director
much.
Coleman.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Coleman again. Page 4 of 5 of your report, you mentioned a cultural heritage evaluation report. So my first, I got a few questions, but my first question is, what is that exactly?
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. It's an assessment that's done to look at the heritage value to determine whether conservation or mitigation measures would be required for the structure. The terms of reference on what needs to be done is outlined in guidelines by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. And it's also typically part of the municipal environmental assessment process to determine which schedule would need to be followed.
Okay, and subsequent to that, would it be cheaper, and through you, Madam Mayor, would it be cheaper and wiser to completely redo the pier? Maybe less expensive, but perhaps more durable material? I don't know. But have you looked at that, or will you look at that?
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the councillor, before we proceed with any significant repairs or reconstruction and replacement, we'll definitely look at various options. It's the estimates in the consultant's report were quite high. They were talking about completely replace the pier was $3 to $5 million. And in a township like ours, where there's a lot of things we'd like to do for $3 to $5 million, we definitely want to make sure that we review the options and come up with what the best solution is. We want to make sure there's somewhere for people to dock and come into the downtown area. And I think if we review various different options, we can come up with something that's a lot cheaper than $5 million.
And through you, Madam Mayor, does it make any sense to affect repairs as part of the Lake Scugog project or the preferred plan for the waterfront, or would that slow matters rather than accelerate them?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, you're right. It would slow matters. We're quite a bit into the permitting process, and we've gone back and forth on several iterations with the permitting agencies. And if we change the scope of work now and added another element, that could have a significant delay to the project. But that being said, the two projects are right adjacent to each other, and dredging next to the pier will have an effect on the pier. So we do need to coordinate the work together and make sure the projects work well together.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any further questions? Seeing none, we have a mover and a seconder. Can we call the vote, please, Madam Clerk, on the motion in front of us?
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that is carried. And now we move to correspondence 10.2.1. And Councillor McDougall, you asked for this to be put on the agenda. And would you like to make the motion, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council endorse this correspondence.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brown, is there your hand up from before, or is that to second the motion?
Oh, that's to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall, anything you'd like to say?
No, it behooves me to think that you know I know the idea of the potential government's agenda to cool the white hot housing market, but to change the game this late in the stage when people have invested so much in their homes and they may have invested in different ways if they had known this was coming. I don't feel it's fair, so that's why I've endorsed this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. I totally support it myself. I mean, those people that are seniors or approaching their senior years, may have invested into their homes or into their property, and that could be their life savings that takes them into retirement. And especially people who do not have a pension from their employment. Realistically, what you get in CPP and old age pension really is not a livable wage. So yes, I totally agree with you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we call the question, please, on the motion in front of us? Madam Clerk?
Yes, voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, no items for separate discussion. Under new business, we have the proclamations issued by the Mayor's office and for the last week of May and the month of June, and they are there before you. We do recognize that the month of June is also Aboriginal month, and Aboriginal Day is June 21st. And to that end, although we did not receive a formal request, we do recognize June as Aboriginal month. And to that end, we're planning a special day on June 21st, which is Aboriginal Day. And this will include, we're in tentative work on it right now, but this will include formal and permanent land acknowledgement, the ringing of bells and addresses from the municipality and the MSIFN, at the front of the municipal office, and perhaps the public will be involved in bell ringing as well. So more definite plans will be put out in the next couple of weeks. I see that Director Bowers could speak to this. Please go ahead, Director Bowers. You're muted, I believe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm trying to find that mute button. Just wanted to clarify the formal title for that will be National Indigenous Peoples Day for Monday, June 21st. And we thank you very much for your work on this. Staff are working behind the scenes on a committee has been formed to assist in creating and hopefully in correlation with advice from our MSIFN on some appropriate acknowledgement for this month. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have touched base with Chief LaRocca on the preliminary plans that you're working on now, and she and her council are delighted and thankful for what we are considering. So thank you very much to the committee that's working on it, and we will look forward to the celebration of our Indigenous peoples on that day. Thank you very much. That we need a motion to approve the proclamations issued by the Mayor's office. Could I have a mover, please? Could I have a mover?
Councillor Ross.
Also move, Councillor Watton.
Councillor Ross and Councillor Guido. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, can you call the question, please? Thank you.
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That is carried, and we do not have a closed session, and I will now ask for a motion for adjournment. Councillor Guido, and seconded by, you want to stay?
Councillor Ross.
Councillor Ross seconds. Thank you very much. Call the question, please, Madam Clerk.
Voting is open, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for excellent reports, and all staff for all the work you do each and every day. I know it's been very stressful. It's stressful for us too, as members of council, but we do appreciate everything you do. And thank you, council, for a very productive meeting, for your input and doing your homework. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. This meeting is adjourned.